It was a Saturday evening, the kind of evening where everything should have felt normal. Emma and I were sitting in the living room, a movie playing quietly on the screen, but she seemed restless. She shifted on the couch, her eyes darting toward the window, her fingers tapping anxiously on her thigh. Finally, she stood up and said softly, "I just need some fresh air. I'll be back in a few minutes." I nodded, not thinking much of it. Couples needed space sometimes, and I wanted to trust her. But there was something in her tone, too quick, too forced, that stirred unease inside me. She didn't look at me when she said it. She grabbed her jacket, slipped out the door, and disappeared into the night. At first, I stayed put. I told myself not to overthink, not to become the paranoid husband who chased shadows. But after a few minutes, curiosity got the better of me. Something about the way she had left just didn't sit right. I muted the TV, slid on my shoes, and stepped outside. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of rain. Our street was quiet, the kind of silence that magnifies every sound. Crickets, a dog barking in the distance, the soft hum of a car engine far away. I glanced around, expecting to see her pacing or sitting on the porch. She wasn't there. A gnawing suspicion pulled me down the block. I walked slowly, my heart pounding harder with every step. Then just a few houses down I saw her. Not alone. She was standing under the dim glow of a streetlight, her back turned toward me. And in front of her, his arms around her, was Daniel. I froze. The sight hit me like a punch to the gut. My wife, the woman who had just told me she needed fresh air, was pressed against another man. Her body relaxed against his as if it was the most natural thing in the world. I stood there in shock, hidden in the shadows, watching as he tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. She tilted her head up to him, smiling in a way I hadn't seen her smile at me in months. Then she leaned in, resting her forehead against his chest, as if she had finally come home. The betrayal was suffocating. I wanted to storm over, to rip her away from him, to demand how she could lie so easily, so boldly. But I couldn't move. My legs felt cemented to the ground. My chest tightened as I realized this wasn't a mistake, wasn't a fleeting hug, it was something deeper. Something she had chosen. I don't know how long I stood there, watching the two of them wrapped up in each other, while my world collapsed piece by piece. Every laugh we'd shared, every promise she'd made, every vow at the altar, it all crumbled under that streetlight. Finally, I forced myself to step closer. The crunch of gravel under my shoes made her spin around. The color drained from her face the moment her eyes met mine. "James," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel dropped his arms, his face stiffening as he glanced between us. He didn't say a word, but his silence spoke louder than anything he knew. He knew exactly what he was doing. "I needed fresh air, huh?" I said, my voice low, shaking with fury. "This what fresh air looks like now?" Tears filled her eyes instantly. "It's not what you think." "Don't." I cut her off sharply. My voice cracked as I fought to hold myself together. "I saw everything. Don't you dare stand there and lie to me again." She stepped toward me, reaching out, but I backed away. "James, please just listen." "Listen?" I laughed bitterly. "I listened when you said you were tired. I listened when you said you needed space. I listened when you swore you loved me. And while I listened, you were sneaking out into his arms." Her tears streamed freely now, her face crumpled with guilt. But it was too late. I had seen the truth with my own eyes. I turned away, but before I walked off, I looked back one last time. She stood there with him still behind her, torn between us, her betrayal etched across her face. "You could have told me," I said quietly, my voice breaking. "You could have ended it like an adult. But instead you chose lies. You chose this." Then I walked back home, every step heavier than the last. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. I didn't throw things. I simply sat in the silence of our living room, staring at the empty couch where she'd been just minutes earlier. When she returned later, her eyes swollen from crying, she begged for forgiveness. She tried to explain, tried to convince me that it was a mistake, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But all I could see was the image burned into my mind, her in his arms under the streetlight, looking like she belonged there. And I realized something painful but undeniable. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come with warning signs or confessions. Sometimes it comes quietly, disguised as a simple excuse. My wife said she needed fresh air. I whispered to myself that night. And minutes later, I saw her in his arms. That was all the truth I needed.